Hello again, everyone. This is Josh with me, who's been willing to do this interview again, despite all my tech savvy. I had some issues and I botched up the sound last time. So thank you again for being willing to work with me in doing this interview again.
No problem.
All right. So for those who didn't catch the first stream, or who may be new, would you like to share a little about yourself and your background? Who is Josh?
Um, what do I share? I kind of I grew up Christian, I guess, but like one of those lukewarm Christians that like never really like looked into anything. Basically, just kind of like watched videos and then kind of just like went about my life. But like now I like started to take it more seriously. I like having some struggles, but I think I'm starting to make some good Christian friends. So
Cool. Yeah, I have a similar story, but enough about me. You know? Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's quite a common story for a lot of us. We kind of like have a crazy childhood, so to speak, or a young adult or adolescence. I think that's the most volatile time in our lives, and then we get serious about things. So, what was it exactly that drew you to Christ? I mean, what was it that kind of really pushed you in that direction? Was there like an aha moment, or what was it exactly?
um, it was when in December, my mom kept telling me about this river drying up, the Euphrates, and I don't know, one thing my dad said he liked about like me and my brother and sisters, like we always had like a fear of God in our hearts, and like because I was afraid, like, but then so I discovered that was drying up, and like I got kind of scared, and like felt like the way I was, like I couldn't make it to heaven, but uh, then I discovered once saved always saved, which I talked to you about in the stream with the
Hmm.
tech issues,
That I destroyed, that I butchered.
but realized like that doesn't kind of make sense anymore. But it did help me like get closer to like understanding like, the grace of God, I guess. Where so I guess God kind of guided me through that, but um yeah, it's kind of what drew me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things I can say to that. One, I'm gonna naturally go to a movie quote. That's my thing. But this one's going way back. I think it's from the '70s. Woody Allen film, award-winning, I believe, called Annie Hall. Um, yeah, there's a part in it in the movie early on when he's when the character's talking about himself and how he was raised, and his mother's taken to a psychologist, and she's like, I don't know what to do with him, doctor. He just won't listen, doesn't care anymore. And the doctor says, well, what seems to be the problem, young man? He's like, well, the universe is going to implode, and it's all coming to an end. So what's the point? So yeah. So yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, we get all these stories, so to speak, of the world coming to an end and all that. Even or if not, especially in some Christian circles. So it gets to be a bit daunting and discouraging, or maybe even puts our feet to the fire to make us get a little more serious about the faith in our walk in life. So yeah, I mean, I have some old military friends who used to talk about how all the atheists that come into the to service, when they're overseas fighting a war, get really snarky about those Christians and the Bible thumpers and their religion and all that. But as soon as the bullets start flying, they all become Christians. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I mean that's pretty real. It's a valid reason to come back to the faith. So what
Yeah.
was that experience like for you? I mean, how was that transition like?
Um,
I mean, did you
I guess
go? Were you like sorry? Were you like an Al Pacino character? Did you have like a table full of coca, then you just like went from snorting it all in, 5 pounds of 5 kilos of coke to suddenly you found Jesus? I mean, what was your conversion story like? My
um, I guess like it's still kind of a struggle for me, but
hmm.
because one of my main struggles is like lust, and
Join the club. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just like you know, like I can like go a month without it, and then you know, like I'm in like a battle, I guess, and like when you don't have like I'm starting to make some friends, but like when you don't have friends to talk to, it's just like you don't really have much to bounce towards, I guess. You know what I mean? Like you kind of just gravitate back to where you were. Kind of
Yeah.
like the Israelites like getting out of Egypt, where like you know they had almost nothing in the wilderness, and then they try to go back to being slaves because they like would rather be there.
Yeah.
It's just like you wouldn't, but like you know like like my pastor put it in good ways. Like they have selective amnesia where
Hmm.
they they are just picking and choosing good memories and forgetting all the bad ones.
Yeah, that I could definitely relate to that. I mean, that's a great point. That was one part of my coming back to the faith that I talked about, and a component of the third component, realizing that those that we surround ourselves with make all the difference to us. Like I was living in a community that I considered to be a Gomorrah, and I kept trying to leave it, but kept ending back in that community. I felt like it was like a Hotel California. I just couldn't escape. So, but yeah, once Coach Goodwin, once he showed that to me, like you just even in Gomorrah, you just surround yourself with the right company. Uh, you know, just yeah. I mean, you put you on the path to happier living.
Yeah, like I think like Peter describes it as like with Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah, like he was a righteous man, but like every day he was like surrounded by lawlessness, and his soul was basically like irritated and vexed just because of all like the wrong, like and even like Paul or yeah, I think it was Paul, like basically says like don't have fellowship with unbelievers because like what fellowship does like Satan have with Jesus or like righteousness with unrighteousness? It's like it makes sense because it's like a gang mentality. It's like who you surround yourself with is who you're gonna conform to. If you see everyone's humble, you're gonna feel like the odd one out. I feel, and then it's like if you can't beat them, join them. If you're surrounded by people who are like drowning themselves in like bad decisions, you're probably going to make bad decisions.
Yeah, that's well said. Like, so I don't know if I misheard you or not, but so basically, yeah. I mean, y- as my father used to say, "Show me your friends, and I'll show you who you are," kind of thing,
Yeah,
right? So, to that end, what would you say to our viewers? Like, um, yeah, those who are struggling to find the right people. What kind of advice would you give them? How do they go about doing that?
I would say try to like help out at your church. Maybe like find a small group in your church where people are talking about the Bible and try to get them like you know talk to them a lot. Try to be social with them, get their contacts, and talk to them like even outside the church because the church needs to be the church outside of the church as well, and not just in the church. It's not just go Sunday and then like that's all you got for God for the week.
Mm.
It's like you gotta you gotta try to do something for God like every day, and like you gotta make sure you have some good companions. Because I watched like Sam Shimon talk about this, and he was like If you look at the Book of Acts, like a lot of people who were going preaching weren't going by themselves. Usually, it was like groups of two or three, unless they got exiled out of the land. Like I think even Paul was discouraged in like the land of Corinth because like just like how it was. Look at how many like chapters he wrote towards the Corinthians. You know, but I think God was just like, don't worry, I'll be with you. But it can be discouraging when you're by yourself.
Yeah, so he became a lonely writer. That's interesting. I never heard their perspective before, but I can relate to that too. Um, yeah, so yeah, Paul's definitely a popular one. Um, not with the Muslims, but yeah, definitely a popular one.
I
So
mean,
let
who
me
in the
ask.
Bible is popular with the Muslims? Let's be real.
Fair enough. Well said. Very good point. Um, yeah. So as far as lust, now that's a common one that's covered a lot. Including the church fathers, they spoke a lot about lust. Um, how would you, or what would you say to our viewers as far as some strategies to combat the fleshly yearnings?
Well, I mean, I guess the Bible kind of tells us how, right? Walk in the Spirit, and like you won't fulfill the lust of the flesh, and like you know, having that fellowship with people you can confide in and put your trust in and tell them like almost anything and they would listen to you and help you. Like getting that kind of friendship, it can be hard, but once it's had, you have that person to talk to. Like you have that person that's going to hold you accountable for your actions. Yeah.
Yeah, you got blessings from a dragon. Um, she's awesome. I love her to death. So yeah, I mean, some would even say, well, something that mass media says or kind of mocks is like this whole praying it out, or praying it away. Um, a moniker that I've heard a lot lately is chuckling, kind of illustrating to the audience how they should behave. You should laugh at it, the idea of you should pray the gay out, right?
Yeah.
So, right. So, but I mean, I think that's an illustration of how they attack prayer, this idea of being prayerful and how it's, closed-minded and, all these things, fanatical, whatever. But that's definitely one of the strategies everyone, all the Christians, I would argue, would advocate for or at least employ themselves is to pray, including at a time of personal struggle. So, would you say that's fairly accurate?
Yeah. I mean, like even Jesus kind of did it sometimes. Before he was getting captured, he would pray, but he said God, please take this cup of suffering away. But you know, if it's your will, then let it be done. You
Yeah. Um,
I think prayer is very important. Like Jesus would even like sometimes like walk away just to pray and then come back. He would go away in secret and then come back after he's done praying. Like he would take some time out of his day to talk to God. And I think I saw like an interesting article. It's like talk to Jesus as if he's your friend. You know, like he says, "You are my friend if you do whatever I command." So you know, like talk to him like you would talk to like your friend, like as politely as possible.
I like that. That's exactly.
Yeah.
I might have become a bit of a heretic because I even take some liberties with the Lord's Prayer because of my timidness. Let's call it that. So I throw in the word please in the Lord's Prayer, which probably isn't a kosher thing to do. Um, yeah, so I mean, I completely relate to that. Completely relate to that. Let's talk about mass media and its influence. That's my big thing. Would you like to tell us? I mean, before you mentioned, and we talked about this before, A Silent Voice,
hmm
and that was a film that you identified with before you came back to Christ. Would you like to give us some details about that one?
Yeah. So it's about a dude that essentially Like he had a horrible past, and he like bullied a deaf girl, and everything got kind of pinned on him, even though other people did join in. But he kind of like he was basically depressed in the beginning of the movie, and he wanted to self delete himself.
Self delete.
uh,
Okay.
yep, and so basically he tries to make amends with everyone, and I think you even saw in the movie where everyone around him has like X's on his face, like he kind of like ignores like the rest of them. But at the end of the movie, he all the X's fall, and it's like I relate to his introvertedness and like just kind of like I'm definitely trying to like conform more to Christ and his mindset, but it can be hard when all the people around you can irritate you a lot. But
Yeah. I had that experience actually, it was last night, and I feel like I still feel horrible about my quote unquote reacting to an instigator. I was on with Thaddeus during a Bible study, and so we had a couple of Muslims that were coming in and just harassing us. One of them got on and just started, with the F bombs and all that, just viscerally, which Thaddeus was able to kind of just laugh at, see for what it was and move on.
yeah, Thaddeus
Um,
is like I feel
yeah.
like he's never really like horribly angry. Like he seems very calm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they do it. People like him, Avery, even David. I realized. I mean, David Ahmad, ex-Muslim. He, I mean, he'll mock, he'll criticize, right? But he'll do it with a laugh. He'll do it lightheartedly and move on. Like he barely gets affected by it. And if you listen to his story about how he was even a terrorist himself at a young age, and then after that kind of rhetoric became a reality, um, you know, that he saw these things were his eyes, all of a sudden he got jarred. And thankfully, he had enough heart to, yeah. Gabriel says Thaddeus has the patience of a saint. I would agree. Him, yeah, Avery, and like,
He's got the
uh,
gift of patience.
gift of patience. I like that. So, yeah, people who see that s- tend to take things differently. A lot of them, unfortunately, go spiral downward. But they also, some of them, particularly those who are Christ-centered, develop this ability to kind of take words and kind of brush them off. Realize that it's just words. It's not that big of a deal compared to these other things that are going on in the world. Which I guess is one good thing that comes out of it. But to that end, you mentioned self-deleting. Like, what does that mean exactly?
Well, I don't know if YouTube wants me to say it.
Oh, that's right, because of Yubu. Are you talking about the S word, the
Ye-
Seuss? Yeah, okay, I
yeah.
got you. For some reason, you can't say that on Yubu, which I'm okay with, ironically, in one sense, because mass media definitely pushes that concept, has been doing so for decades and decades. And so in one way, I'm glad they don't allow that, but on the other, if we're not allowed to talk about it, dispel it. That's an issue too, right? So okay, so he was considering self-deletion. All right, I got you. And so he was. This is a character that was kind of down on life, and he was looking at people like I would say, kind of like wallpaper. They weren't really real people.
I guess you can kind of say that. Like he kind of like blocked out the world. You know, kind of just like him on his own. I guess with like the limited people he had.
Okay, yeah, that's a writing device that I was trying to use in my own in this picture book I've been struggling with forever, a children's book. One style of art I was using, I was kind of trying to illustrate that only the two main characters mattered, and everyone else was kind of blending in the background. But not when I field tested it, not a lot of people were understanding what I was trying to do there, so I moved on. But especially in today's day and age, where we're all migrating to www and in this virtual reality, I think it's important that we realize that the people that we're talking to aren't people; they're not just constructs or targets of our triggering, or trolling.
Yeah. Like I feel like the internet has like a lot to do with that, Whereas, you wouldn't really say things sometimes you would say online, where like, you know, some of these trolls, like these gamers that like to play like Call of Duty and everything, like all the things they say online is probably not something they're going out, in their everyday life, like at work or at school, and just like spouting, that.
The Grand Theft Auto mentality.
Yeah.
Move, B, get out the way. Yeah. So yeah, tell me again, or for those of us that are not familiar with it, this once saved, always saved. Could you tell us about that concept?
Yeah, so basically, there's like the Calvinistic perspective, which is like you'd have to look into that because I can't explain all that. But
Not in 15 minutes. I know you got want to take off about 15 minutes for Bible
but
study, right?
yeah, but basically it's like it's a concept where you basically once you've placed your faith in Jesus, even if you were to like apostatize anything, like nothing you could do would ever like make you unsaved. But like I just like realized like I don't really agree with that. Like, if you are saved by grace through faith, if you don't have the faith, then how are you saved? You know what I mean? It's like because like it's the one being faithful, not the one that just like James 2 addresses like we're justified by works and not by faith alone, because the faith and works like they go together, and because like you see when Abraham offers Isaac, I think even God says like I see you have the fear of God in you, you know. And like I learned recently like the fear of God isn't just like marveling how amazing he is, how um, he can send you to hell. It's um, just hating what's evil, because in Proverbs 8 it describes that the fear of the Lord is to hate evil. So if you love him, you essentially have the fear of God in you.
Hmm. So yeah, I'm glad you put it that way, and that's exactly what I want to emphasize for those who misunderstand the fear of God. I've had atheist acquaintances very close to me actually, who kind of challenged that. Said, you know what, that's not a good thing. And that's how mass media portrays it. Like, you got to have a fear of God, of going to hell, and all. That's that kind of mindset. But that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about more of the absence of God's grace and what that leaves behind. Does
Yeah,
that
and
sound
like
about right?
yeah, and it's like even in First John he describes like perfect love casts out fear, because a perfect love would be most likely someone that keeps all of Christ's commands, and like listens to him, and conforms to his words, where you know you wouldn't need fear because you're already keeping his commandments. You wouldn't need to like hate evil if you already love doing good. It's already you know because you're already like perfect.
Right. So that's sorry. Yeah. I mean, yeah. A Bible quote comes to mind. We talked about this before about Lazarus and the rich man, the poor Lazarus sitting out on the doorstep, begging for crumbs, and the rich man just gives him his blessing and tells him to move on. So yeah, that was an illustration of how faith without works is dead. Right. So
Yeah, I think even James addresses that. Um, you know, like shutting up the bowels of your compassion. I think he even said like if you just tell them to go away in peace, like what is a profit? Like like he even calls people that think this like senseless people, like because it just doesn't make sense. Like how can
yeah,
you say you believe in God, you love someone, when when given the opportunity, you just like you will never do anything for them.
just brush people off, put an X on
Yeah.
them, and tell them to go away.
Yeah. God bless
Yeah.
you. Like good luck. Just leave them.
Right. Good luck. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, imagine being that poor person and how they might react. They might adopt that attitude of, this anti-Christian attitude. Well, these people are hypocrites. They're not walking the walk. They're just talking the talk, and
Yeah, I
sending
mean,
people
like
off.
that is like partially what some atheists think. Like even I think Andrew Tate kind of said this, where he didn't like that, like they didn't like half the Christians, like majority of the Christians don't like listen to the Bible like almost at all,
Mm.
and it's just like I do agree. It's like Jesus says we have to be the light of the world, which means you gotta be like set apart like he was. He was different from everyone else in the fact that he was perfect and he loved everyone. And like we're supposed to walk as he walked. So we need to learn to love everyone, which can be a struggle. I'm not saying it's, you know, like, oh, it's going to happen overnight. But, we definitely have to conform ourselves to his mindset and try to understand, like, from his perspective, what's going on. Because, in the grand scheme, like, some people bring up good points, like, it's not about us anymore. Where it's, Jesus came to save the lost and we have to help in that mission.
Yeah, yeah, can definitely relate. Yeah. Um, so we've talked about these things before, but moving away from a silent voice, and being the bee, I appreciate you bringing up Andrew Tate and his challenge to Christians. Yeah, of all people, I mean, it's important that we walk the walk and we represent ourselves as Christians, not for the sake of showboating, or putting on a show, but I mean, because people can see right through that. That's the bottom
Yeah,
line.
and that's why Jesus even says like when you're doing stuff, do it in secret.
Mm.
Because even if you want people to know, if you keep it in secret, then you're humbling yourself. You're kind of like you're not trying to show off anymore, and you're like getting this mindset like no, it's not about showing off. It's about doing good. Where if you want to just go shout it around the hills like Muslims during Ramadan,
Yeah.
you know, you're just showing off, and it's like one, they're not even fasting. It's like they're just like switching around their schedule. But
Gaining weight. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, biblically, it's called ringing your bells. There's actually a English word, blow hard, which kind of says it all, right? Um, so let's get back to the movies there for a second. I believe you said that you don't really watch movies that much anymore. Is that right?
yeah, like sometimes, like I think um, my family wants to watch His Only Son uh, when they get access to that. But yeah, I'm not. Like I started watching like a little bit of anime again, but um, just kind of like not trying to do it like to the point where like I'm not reading the Bible like at all. You know, like to that point where it was just like too much distraction and just too much exhaustion. Where like I try to read like 5 chapters as much as I can every day, but
Wow.
yesterday I was like tired and like was busy with the church and small group, and I gotta do my reading in like 10 minutes, but
Yeah.
but yeah,
No,
it's
I
kind of
appreciate that, and that's probably explains why you're so always equipped with a Bible verse to share. Whatever we discussed so far, you're ready. That triggers some kind of a association with the actual scripture, which is wonderful. Conversely, Mister, don't watch movies, don't go on the internet. I'm always on the internet, and I'm doing all focusing on my attention to movies for the sake of research, and so
yeah,
I'm in a sense almost a hypocrite. I'm not trying to be. I'm trying to be in the belly of the beast, trying to reach people where they're at to kind of warn them about these things. But Consequently, when I talk about things, I don't have a Bible quote handy. I have instead a movie quote handy. So, yeah, I definitely, that's something I need to change, actually. Yeah, I definitely need to change. And His Only Son is a movie that's a recent movie. Um,
Yeah,
okay, I believe, yeah, that's a good one. Southern Gospel is another recent one that I've watched that's pretty good,
I
I
haven't
thought.
heard of that.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll check it out. I don't know.
yeah. A lot of the recent Christian movies, you got to watch them because a lot of them are ensnarements. Like Jesus Revolution was kind of like a Jesus Christ Superstar rendition, a 21st century remake of it. Not great. But there's another one called Leap of Faith, which is from 1992, I believe. It's a personal favorite. It's with Steve Martin, Deborah Winger. They were really big stars back in the day. But it talks about or illustrates this whole thing, this showboating and using God's name in vain and the perils of that, the consequences. But there's something in the movie that happens, and I'm not going to tell you what, but I think it's worth a watch all the way through. Um, because it's just one of my favorites, and I think it's a really powerful movie if you're paying attention to what it's saying. It's called Leap of Faith, 1992, I think.
All right.
Um, okay. So, what about other types of media? You said you read scripture. Are there other books that you'd like to recommend our audience to read that really have impact in your life?
Um, no, I'm not much of a book reader. The
Okay.
Bible's like the main thing I could
Well, if
like
I'm,
read.
yeah, I one I always push, which helped my formation. It was called "Beginning to Pray." Now, the title is misleading. The first section of the book is a Q&A with the author. He talks about why he chose that title. It's actually a deeper meaning. It basically challenges that no matter where we are in our spiritual walk in life, we're always a rookie because there's always so much more to develop spiritually. So, and it's a powerful read that I think um, can help anyone strengthen the relationship with God and gives us tools to combat certain things, including self awareness and so on. So I highly recommend it. It's by Anthony Bloom, Bloom, like the flower Bloom, Anthony Bloom, Beginning to Pray.
All right.
What about music?
Um, I'm kind of like a rock guy.
Cool.
Just kind of like electric guitar, drums, bass. Like that's kind of my thing. But I can listen to almost anything. It just depends on the song.
Mhm. So when you say rock, we're not talking about Alice in Chains or Godsmack or Slipknot or things like that, right? We're talking
Uh, I don't know about them, but like more like
good. It's a good thing. Yeah.
more like recent kind of stuff, I guess.
Okay. Can you?
Like gospel music, kind of it depends, cause like sometimes it can get a bit redundant, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah.
Whereas like
Uh,
sometimes like these people aren't very original.
right.
It's just
Elevator music after a while. Yeah.
yeah, it's like that's one thing I do appreciate about like some non-Christian music. It's like sometimes it's not always they do stuff like the instruments and everything where it's like like if I were to make music, I would want to like if I'm gonna make gospel music, like I would want to like try to experiment with some things and like do some things differently that like people
Mhm.
aren't doing and like try to like you know mix in like the like instrumental styles of like
Mhm.
non-Christian music and try to form it into the Christian music to like keep the ears of the listener while also you know preaching like the gospel or giving a good message. Whereas like now it's like the same, just like strike a few chords and
Right.
and like it's just like sometimes it just gets really dull.
Yeah. There's back in the day in my early um, seminary life, so to speak, when I was first learning Orthodox hymnology or Byzantine chant, which was actually the first recorded written Western music, was that genre. but they didn't quite. Their tempo was in their pitch was not. It wasn't set. It was set up in a different way where you just had to listen to the leader and then you build. You go up and down from there. So it was diatonic for the most part. But yeah, I mean, there's some very beautiful moving music in that, which you don't hear mainstream. Well, there's some takes, some remakes of their classics that were made into other classics, but I don't know. I could almost see that being integrated into modern music or rap or like a kid rock kind of thing, rap slash rock kind of thing. But I don't know if there's I don't know if that church would see that as heretical or not. What about quotes? Do you have like a favorite quote or expression that you like to share, or something that you live by?
I don't really think so. There's a good Pokemon quote, but
Shoot,
um, I need to look it up real quick if you don't mind.
no, no worries. Yeah, I think we talked about Pokemon before and my experience with Magic and how I view Pokemon. Pokemon came out right after Magic. That Magic the Gathering was is a card game based on Wicca, and so Pokemon is structured very much like Magic the Gathering. So I was super anxious about that. And then the whole manga thing took off and became popular. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I think you'll like this quote. I
all
found
right,
it, but basically this was like a Pokemon speaking in the movie, but he says, "I see now that the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It is what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are."
beautiful. I do love it. That's actually reminds me of a quote from the book I just mentioned when the author is talking about his father and the quote or something that he said to him. He was talking about how his fathers told him that he didn't care if he got injured or if he even died. What mattered was whether or not he lost his integrity and how he lived his life and why he died. That's what was significant. I was like, whoa. He's like, yeah, I was bombarded with those kind of deals growing up, so you can imagine how that had an impact on my formation.
Yeah, I remember like someone like I won't go into detail, but like something bad happened to me, and I was like crying in my bed, and my dad, he loves me, so he's like, you can do. There's two things you can do. You can either sit there and like cry all day, or you can get up and like make a difference, and like do something.
I like
And then
that.
I ended up talking with them. Things got better.
Yeah. Finally, a Bible quote that triggers the pick up thy bed. Rise, pick up thy bed. You know. So at the Bethesda. Um, all right. So, is there? No, you have to go for your Bible study. Is there any parting advice, words of wisdom you'd like to leave our audience with, or maybe a favorite Bible quote?
Um, a Bible quote I do like is Philippians 1:21, where Paul says, "For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain."
Whoa, you want to expand on that? Philippians 1.
21, I believe.
Okay. What does that
Where
mean exactly?
like I feel like Paul's trying to say it's like no matter what, with Christ it's a victory. Like you die, you go to heaven. You've gained eternal life, and like life here is about preaching Christ and Him crucified. Where I think Paul says like I considered like everything in my past like as basically garbage to like know Christ and Him crucified.
Wow, that's powerful. I like that. I might have to adopt that. That's very similar to my favorite quote, Matthew 24:13. Blessed are those who endure to the end. I'm maybe paraphrasing a little bit there, but yeah, along the same lines. Or a popular Greek saying, which is also scriptural, Isus Christos Nika, Christ is victorious. He's already won. All right, God bless you, man. Thank you much for your patience, your time, and willingness to do this again. And
No
enjoy
problem.
your Bible study.
Have a good one. God bless.
Thank you.